This is security footage from St. Mercy Medical Center. At 2:47 a.m., a 9-year-old girl in a hospital gown walks toward a steel door that has been welded shut for decades. She doesn't stop. She passes through the solid metal as if it isn't there. St. Mercy was a functioning hospital in Pennsylvania, recently renovated to present a modern, sterile face to the public. Ethan Carter was the newest member of the security team, hired to patrol the graveyard shift while the rest of the facility slept. On his first night, Ethan's supervisor gave him a single, rigid instruction. Every floor was to be checked every hour, with one exception. He was told to stay away from the basement, regardless of any noises or alarms that originated from below the ground floor. 2 weeks into the job, the service elevator began moving on its own. At exactly 2:47 a.m., it bypassed a lobby and descended to the restricted basement. When the elevator returned to the first floor, the weight sensors indicated it was no longer empty. Ethan chose to investigate. By descending the stairs to the basement, he broke protocol and entered a section of the hospital that the administration had spent 40 years keeping unobserved. The air in the basement was freezing, smelling of dust and stagnant air. While the floors above were bright and modernized, this level was a corridor of abandoned beds and medical equipment that appeared untouched since the 1970s. Ethan followed the sound of metal wheels scraping against concrete until he reached a rusted door labeled Ward B13. This wing did not exist on any of the hospital's current maps or floor plans. On the floor outside the door, Ethan found a patient file for a 9-year-old girl named Emily Ross. The file contained no discharge papers. Instead, someone had scrawled 5 words across the bottom of the page in jagged red ink. Do not let her wake up. This physical record confirmed that the girl on the camera wasn't a glitch in the security system. She was a documented patient in a ward the hospital had officially erased. Ethan searched the basement's archive room the following morning. Behind a loose shelf, he discovered a locked steel cabinet containing dozens of patient files that were absent from the hospital's digital database. These records revealed a localized spike in pediatric admissions between 1976 and 1981. As the timeline shows, every one of these data lines ends abruptly. There are no death certificates on file, and no records of these children ever being discharged. Every file ended with the same handwritten stamp, indicating the children had been transferred to Ward B13. Ethan tracked down Margaret, a retired nurse who had worked at St. Mercy during the 1970s. She admitted that a private research group had leased the basement for a project that was never mentioned in official hospital reports. The team was investigating a theory called post-clinical awareness. They were attempting to prove that human consciousness could be artificially sustained after the heart had stopped beating. The record showed that these children were being used as subjects for off-the-books neurological experiments. According to Margaret, the project was so secretive that even the primary hospital staff were barred from the basement floors. Ethan presented these intake files to the hospital director. Confronted with the evidence of the 1976 admissions, the director agreed to accompany Ethan to the basement to investigate the source of the 2:47 a.m. elevator movement. Outside the welded door of Ward B13, they found a fresh trail of wet, bare footprints. The prints led directly to the steel door, but the dust in the rest of the hallway remained undisturbed. As they watched, the rusted steel door began to vibrate. The welded seams cracked as the metal center bends outward, indicating a massive amount of physical pressure being applied from the inside of the empty ward. The room inside was perfectly clean, contrasting with the decay of the basement hallway. Heart monitors were active, and calendars on the walls on October 1979, the same year the research project reached its peak. In one of the beds, Emily Ross opened her eyes. She appeared exactly as she did in her 1978 intake photo. She looked at Ethan and asked if her parents had arrived to take her home. A figure in a white lab coat appeared at the back of the ward, Dr. Victor Hale, the lead researcher from the 1979 files. His presence caused the monitors to stabilize into a steady rhythm before the lights in the ward suddenly failed. The experiment conducted in 1979 had stalled. The patients and their doctor remained in a state where the physical markers of life continued despite their clinical deaths decades earlier. When the lights returned, Ward B13 was once again a hollow concrete shell. However, Ethan found this modern patient wristband on the floor. It was printed with his own name, today's date, and the status admitted. Seeing the wristband, the director admitted that Ward B13 was only a facade. He produced a brass key to a second, deeper level known as Floor X, designed to isolate the results of Dr. Hale's research. Floor X was a preserved observation deck from the late 70s. Every clock in the facility was stopped at 2:47 a.m., the exact time the final experiment was recorded. Ethan found a film reel in the observation room documenting the project's final hours. On the tape, Dr. Hale explained his goal was to force the human brain to remain conscious after the body had physically expired. The footage showed the children's heart rates drop into zero. Seconds after being declared dead, every child sat upright simultaneously, staring at the camera. The hospital records indicate that the basement was sealed with reinforced concrete because the patients remained physically active long after their hearts had stopped. An intercom announcement for a code white echoed through the floor. A row of empty hospital beds began to roll into the hallway by themselves, their leather restraints tightening as if preparing for new patients. Dr. Hale appeared in the corridor, looking exactly as he did 43 years earlier. He moved toward Ethan, intending to continue his work from 1979. Emily appeared between them. She pointed Ethan toward the hospital chapel, located on the ground floor, indicating that the final proof of the project's illegality was hidden there. In the chapel, Ethan found the primary medical logs that the researchers had failed to destroy. These autopsy reports and nurse logs provided the missing link, matching the children on the film reels to the intake records Ethan had found earlier. These documents were handed to state investigators the next morning. The resulting investigation led to a national scandal, the closure of St. Mercy, and the final demolition of the building. The investigation concluded that the hauntings at St. Mercy were the direct result of medical procedures authorized in 1979. Exposing the hospital's internal records allowed the facility to be destroyed, finally ending the cycle of activity in the basement.